Hi everybody, welcome back to Foster Media. So today the plan is to build a POST-INSTL script, which can be used to configure an operating system after it's been installed. The purpose of the script will be to automate the following tasks. The first one will be to back up important configuration files, such as the bashrc.profile and sources.list, which are all important system files that are often edited, and because of this should be backed up. And then we'll remove bloat from the system, which will be specified from a list that we create. So anything that we add to this list will be removed from the system. And then we'll add home directories from backup, including application and system configuration files. And then we'll install repository packages, also specified from a list that we create. Anything that we add to this list will be added to the new system. And then we'll install local packages. These would include, say, .deb files that you may have downloaded from various websites, or packages that just have special needs. For example, if they need to be compiled from source. And then we'll configure the .bashrc, and these changes will be appended to the very end of the bashrc from a file that we create. And then after that, we'll configure install packages, which will include packages that can only be configured through a GUI interface. And because these can't always be done in the terminal, we can maybe just provide a path, do some documentation to help aid in this process. And then lastly, we'll clean up the system to remove any leftover dependencies or unused packages. And all this can be done in less than 20 commands, which means it'll be lightweight and reliable. By the end of this video, we'll have a script up and running that does all of this without any errors, and it'll be reliable, efficient, and portable. Today, I just wanted to get these basics out of the way and then possibly add additional functionality in future videos. I've been wanting to do this video for quite a while now, and today is finally the day. Some reasons you may want to do this would include, jump back over my fancy slideshow, efficiency, configuration of the system is fast and easy, consistency, proven steps can be repeated exactly as they were carried out in the past. After the script is complete, it can be placed onto a USB and used to configure multiple machines the exact same way every time. Reliability, all steps have already been implemented and proven while making the script, eliminating any guesswork during the actual configuration process itself. Basic commands will also be used that work on all GNU/Linux-based operating systems. And peace of mind. No more having to worry about breaking your install when you can just reinstall and then run a script to get the system back to its previous state. I've already run and proven the commands that will do most of the heavy lifting. So essentially all we'll have to do is tidy them up a bit, save them to a file, and then run it. And here they are. And I'll make sure to paste these in the comments section of this video. That way, if you're following along, you can just copy and paste and just do exactly what I am today. And all these are basic commands that will work in all GNU/Linux-based operating systems. If you're not using a Debian or Ubuntu distribution, all you'll have to do is substitute the package manager. And I'll show you that step when we get to it. So right at the top here, we'll first have to get the path of the backup drive from the user. And it should look something very similar to what I've highlighted right here. Because when you first insert a storage media into your machine, it will almost always be mounted in /media. And then the path to that drive will be followed with the username. And instead of using an actual username, I've decided to use a system variable. So that way, if you try to run this on a different machine with a different username, it won't make any difference at all. It'll just grab the current username from the system. And then backup is just what I've called this particular drive. So the name of the drive would just go here. And then home is a directory on that drive where I'll be copying all the files from into the new home. And then we'll store that path inside this variable called backup. And that way we can reference it and use it later on. And after that, we'll back up all our configuration files with these commands right here. And we'll just be using the cp command to do that. And we'll just be copying the files with the same name and the same directory. The only difference is we're going to add this .bak extension here. And that way, if we mess up any of these files in the future, we'll easily be able to recover them from this backup. And after that, to get rid of all the bloat on the system, we'll use this command. And we'll do that by creating this list, bloat.list. And then any packages we add inside of that list will be removed from the system. And then after that, we'll populate our home directory with this command right here. So this is just going to copy all the files from the backup path that was provided in the first step into the user's current home directory right here. And then after that, we'll install all our repository packages with this command. And similar to bloat.list, we'll create another list called apt.list, which will just list all the packages that we want to be installed on the system. And then after that, to install all of our local packages or .debs, we can use this command right here. And this will just install all of the .deb files that are inside of this directory right here. And you can, of course, call this directory absolutely whatever you want. Just make sure it's reflected in this command when we go to write the script. And then in case there are any dependency issues, which I find are quite common whenever I install a bunch of deb files like this, we can resolve those issues with this command right here. And that will fix those issues for us and install any dependencies that may be missing from the system. And then following that, we'll configure the .bashrc with this command. And we'll do that by creating this file right here. And anything that we put inside of this file will be appended to the very end of the bashrc. And then after that, we'll configure installed packages right here. And because we can't do this in a terminal, I'm thinking here maybe we can just provide a path to some documentation, which will help whoever is using the script to configure those packages. And then lastly, we'll use this command right here to clean up the system and get rid of any dependencies that aren't required anymore or old packages that aren't used. And as you can see, we're going to have to create a few directories. So for example, this one for the bashrc stuff, we'll have to create that. We'll have to create apt.list, bloat.list, stuff like that. And maybe just to further illustrate that, I'll just jump back over to my fancy slideshow and go to my next slide. So the first directory we're going to have to create will be lists, which will of course have our lists. So anything that goes in here will get added to the system. Anything that goes in here will get removed. And then we'll have another directory called scripts, which will hold our script for us. And the reason I've created a directory for this file is just in case you want to add on to this in the future, possibly add additional scripts or what have you. And then lastly, we'll have docs. And this is where we'll put any documentation for settings that need to be applied through a GUI interface. So with all that being said, maybe now I'll just jump over to the terminal, create these directories, and then we can finally get started with the script. And my current working directory, as it is right now, is just the USB drive that I'm going to be creating these files from and running the script from. And I've just named that post-install. But if I list out the contents, you can see it's completely empty. So we'll definitely have to change that. And we can start by creating those directories, which are right here. So we'll have to create lists, scripts, and docs. And to do that, we can just use the make dir command. So mkdir and lists, scripts, and docs. And there's our directories. So docs I'm not going to worry about right now. I'm thinking maybe we can wait till the script's done and then decide what kind of documentation we want to provide. Lists, we can probably go ahead and create those though. So I'll go there. And the list we're going to have to create will be apt.list and bloat.list. And to do that, we can just use the touch command and say apt.list and then bloat.list. And now we have those. And like the docs, I'm thinking maybe we can just wait on that and populate these lists when we're done the script. And by that time, I would have figured what applications I want to add or remove from the system. So I think next, maybe we'll just jump into the scripts directory, create that, and then we'll start writing the script. So I'll do that and go into scripts. And to do that, we can just use the touch command. And I think I'm just going to call this post-install.sh. But if I list the contents of the directory now, you can see our scripts there, but unfortunately it's not executable. So there's not a whole lot we can do with this right now. And I also want to provide full permissions for all users. So that way, if someone wants to run this on a completely different system with a different username, it won't make any difference. It should run just fine. So to do that, we can use the change mod command. So chmod. And then to give all users full permissions, we can say 777 and then the name of the file. So now if I ls-l, you can see that file is now highlighted and we now have full permissions for all users. So now with that done, we can maybe just open that up in your favorite text editor and we can get started writing it. So I'll do that. And there we go. So the very first thing we're going to need, of course, is a shebang. And that just indicates as to where the bash interpreter is located on the system. And to do that, you can just use a pound sign followed by an exclamation mark and then followed by the path to bash. And to find that, you can just go back over the terminal and just type which bash and enter. And there's the path right there. So I'll just copy that and then paste that in here. And I'll take care of that. And I think the next order of business should be to just copy all these commands that I showed you earlier into our script, and then we can just go from there. It'll save us a bit of time. So I'll just copy all that and throw it in right here. And we're already off to the races. So, but if the machine or if your computer tries to read this and run it, it's not going to be happy at all, and it's going to throw up a bunch of errors. And that's just because the way it's currently formatted. Like it's not really going to know what to do with this. So to turn it into an actual script is quite simple. All we have to do is maybe create some comments or turn these brief descriptions right here into comments. And then just get rid of all these arrows. And then after we're done that, I think things will start to look a lot better. So to turn this into a comment, all you have to do is put a hash sign in front of it and take note how it's all grayed out. So now the system won't regard that as code and it'll just carry on. And I think I'll do that exact same thing for each one of these. This multi-cursor feature is just great. If your text editor doesn't have it, I'm a little bit sad for you. But yeah, now that we have all our comments, I think I'm just going to get rid of all these arrows here. So I'll just select all these. Shoot. Yeah, the only time the multi-cursor thing sucks is when you put one in the wrong spot. You got to start all over. But still worth it. And then we'll get rid of those. So that's starting to look much better. So theoretically, if we try to run this right now, it would actually run just fine. It would kind of suck for us though, because we wouldn't really be able to tell what it's doing because it would just be going so fast and there wouldn't be any breaks between each block. So the output on the screen would just be one continuous blob. So we can definitely clean up a bit to fix that. And I'm thinking we can maybe just add some blank lines to break up each block of output. Add some echo commands to let the user know what the script is doing when it's completing each task. Then echo out done when the task is complete. Maybe then pause the script after the completion of each task and wait for some user input, which could just be in the form of something saying hit enter to continue, which will allow us to confirm that each task was done correctly, that there were no errors, and that everything completed successfully. And then we could add maybe a handful of sleep commands just to slow it down a bit, so we'll have time to see what's going on. And then lastly, provide an intro and an outro message for the user. Something like a welcome to POST-INSTL and goodbye at the end or something like that. And if all this sounds like a lot, I'm most likely making it sound more complicated than it is. But as you'll see when we get moving, that everything we're about to do is super basic, and I'll make sure to explain every step. We can also make all these blocks actual blocks by creating functions for them, but I think I'll save that for the next video. As for today, I just want to keep things as simple as possible and above all functional, and then we'll get fancy later on. Yeah, so I think what I'll do now maybe is just add a bit of output for the user as to what each thing is, or what each task is doing. For example, like right up here at the top, we don't really need one because we already have an echo here explaining to provide a path. But right here, when we go to back up the configuration files, the system is just going to go ahead and do it all and not really tell us what it's doing. So I think what I'll do is I'll just throw an echo command in here, and I'll just say backing up. System configuration files, and then I'll move down here and pretty much just do the same thing for each one of these blocks here. And I know they're not technically blocks, just for ease of reference today. That's just what I'm going to call them. So here I'll say removing system bloat. And then here we can just say adding home directories. And then here we can echo installing repository packages. Installing local packages. And then echo, keep putting my fingers on the wrong keys here. Configuring e.bashrc. And then echo, configuring installed packages. And last one, we'll just echo out, cleaning up the system. Okay, so now we know what each thing is doing. We can maybe just provide some feedback as to when it's done doing that thing. So right at the very end of these, I'm just going to echo out. Done. And I think I'll copy that for each one. So I'll just copy and then move down here. Select all these guys and then paste that in there. Hit enter. And now we'll know when it's done. And then I'm thinking maybe we can just add some read commands. So this will cause the script to wait for user input before it continues. So that way, for example, when it's done backing up, say, these configuration files, the script will pause and say something like hit enter to continue. So that way, if the script is still going too fast, it's not going to matter because we can still read the output before we continue on with the next task. So to do that, all you have to do is say read with the flag -p, and then just put whatever you want to say on the screen. And I think I'll just say enter to continue. And then I'll also copy that for each one of these blocks here. And paste that. Perfect. So now when it's done each task, it'll pause and wait for the user to hit enter, and which will give us plenty of time to read the output and ensure everything happened the way we wanted and that there were no errors. And then next up, I think we can maybe just clear the screen. So after it's done its task, it will print out done. We'll hit enter to continue. And then before we move on to the next task, it'll just clear the screen for us. Because by that point, we would have already confirmed that everything from the previous task was successful. And then we can just start off nice and clean with the next block. So yeah, and all we need to do that is just write clear. Nice and simple. So I'll just copy that and do the same thing that we've been doing and just paste that for all these guys. And then paste that there. So now the screen will be clear. And then I'm thinking maybe we can add some blank lines to help split some of this up a bit. Because as is right now, well, even though that we're clearing the screen, it would be nice to have a blank line right at the very top of the screen so the text isn't hugging the very top of the window. It just makes it a little more legible, I guess. And to do that, we can just add some blank echo commands. Say like so. That should do the trick. And like what I'll do now maybe is just copy this. And then paste that here, 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 and here. And this, of course, would look much cleaner and nicer if we created functions. We could just call all these and not have so much code that's being repeated. But I figure for now, this would just be the most simple approach. So we can understand 100% what's going on until the script runs successfully. And then when it does, we can come back and make things look a little bit nicer and more uniform and all that stuff. So I'll paste that stuff in there. Yeah, I think we're certainly getting somewhere. And maybe I'll add, let's see, where else can we put a blank line? Maybe right after it's telling us what it's doing, we can add a blank line because then immediately after that, it's going to start putting stuff on the screen. So it'd be nice if we had a blank line in between what it's telling us it's doing and then everything that it starts to put on the screen. So yeah, I think I'll do that. So I'll just copy this guy again. And then I'll paste that here and here. Just at the right after our descriptive echoes here. And then I'll hit enter and paste that in. So now we have those. What else? Maybe some sleeps, just to slow it down a bit. Because even though we are still going to be able to read everything that's going on, it would be nice if we just paused a little bit before it tells us what it's doing and all that stuff. So where to put those exactly? And I'm thinking maybe just right after where it tells us what it's doing at each block. So for example, right here, it'll say backup system configuration files. And then I'll just sleep for maybe a couple seconds before it starts doing everything. So that way we'll have time to read what it's about to do before it starts doing it. And yeah, we can just throw that right here maybe. And all we have to do that is just say sleep. And then I'm just going to say 2 seconds. So now I'll copy that. And then like we've been doing the whole time, I'll just paste them for all these guys down here. And there. And there. And there. And then there. I'll hit enter. And throw that in there. Okay, so now when it's done, say installing configure install packages, it'll tell us what it's doing. And then I'll sleep for a couple seconds. And then it'll do its thing and start putting stuff on the screen. So that way we'll have a bit of time to process what it's about to do. Yeah, I think we're definitely getting close to the end here. So next I'm thinking maybe with this, when we get the path to the backup drive from the user, maybe we can just echo out what that path was that was entered. So that way they can double check and say, okay, yeah, that's the right path. Instead, in case they make a typo or something like that, then that way they can just cancel out before we try to do everything with a path that isn't going to work. And yeah, I'll just do that right here. Maybe I'll add some a bit of sleep in here right before it does that, and then followed by a blank line. And then I'll echo out backup path provided. And then we can use our backup variable right here, like so. And then maybe I'll let it sleep for a second, or why not 2 seconds. And then I'll throw another read command in here maybe to pause it. And I'll do that just by copying all this stuff, because we'll also need to clear the screen and all that. So I'll copy that and then paste that right there. That's all looks better, I think. And then let me see what else we can do here. Adding home directories. And maybe we can now add a welcome and a goodbye for the user. And to do that will be extremely easy. We can say welcome, and then echo out a blank line at the top of the screen. And then we can say, welcome to post-install, if I can spell install right, .sh. And we'll provide another blank line, and then let sleep for a couple seconds. And then we can do the same thing down at the bottom to say goodbye. Or we can also maybe create a little short, well, not function, but just a few commands to exit the script when it's done in a nice graceful way. So here I'll just say, leave a comment and say exit, and then echo system configuration complete. And then echo out a blank line. And yeah, maybe we'll just pause here and wait for some user input. Instead of to continue though, we'll say enter to exit. And then we'll sleep for a couple seconds. And then we'll echo out goodbye. And then we'll sleep. And then exit. Well, so now I think we're about done. And I think there's just maybe a couple more little things. The first one would be right here when we say when we echo out done. I think it may just be nice to have a space in between all the output that's going to happen on the screen and our actual echo command that says done. So that way it'll just be easier to see, and it won't be kind of just blend itself into all the output. And yeah, so I'll just copy this echo command right here and then paste that right there. And then I'll just do the same for the rest of them. So right before it says done. And there. And then right there. And there. And then there. 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 And yeah, that should be good. So I'll just do that and paste that in. So now we'll have some space between the output and the word done. And the only other thing I can think of is down here where we're going to install the local packages. It would be nice if maybe we had after it installs the packages or tries to, if there's any dependency issues, maybe just add an echo here saying something like resolving dependency issues. So you can say echo and resolving dependency issues. And then I'll just add a bit of a sleep here. And maybe a blank line. Dependency issues. Maybe add a blank line here too. Oh my God, I can't spell this word today. There we go, looks a bit better. And that'll tell us when it's done doing that. And I think for as far as our script's concerned, I think we're done. So we'll just go through it really quick and make sure we got everything. We print out the welcome message there. Get the backup path here. And then we'll store that in a variable called backup, sleep. Print out a blank line. Echo out the path that was provided. Sleep, wait for user input, clear the screen. Provide a blank line. Echo out that stuff, sleep, blank line, do all this stuff, blank line, echo done, wait for the user, clear the screen, blank line, print that out, sleep, blank line, do that stuff, blank line, print done, wait for user, clear the screen, blank line. Adding home directories, sleep for a bit, blank line, copy everything from the backup directory to the user's current home directory. Blank line, print done, wait for the user, clear the screen, blank line. And print that stuff out, sleep, another blank line, update the repository list, install some stuff, blank line, print out done. And wait for the user, clear the screen, another blank line. And then here we're installing local packages, it'll sleep, blank line. Install the local packages, sleep, blank line, print out resolving dependency issues. And later on too, when we go to add on to the script, we can maybe add an if statement here. So we can say if there were any errors, do this. But as is right now, it's not going to hurt anything because if there isn't any errors, it'll just run this command anyways. And if it doesn't find anything, it'll just carry on. But theoretically, it would be nicer if we had maybe an if statement in there to take a different course of action if there were dependency issues. But either way, this is going to work. So I'm not too concerned about it right now, but I think later on we'll definitely clean that up a bit. And then the bashrc, sleep, blank line, add our changes to bashrc, print out done, wait for the user, clear the screen, echo. Print out more stuff, sleep, blank line, print out this directory right here where all our documentation will be, blank line, print out done, and wait for the user, clear the screen. Same thing with cleaning up the system, that looks good. And then we exit. So yeah, I'm going to call that done. And then to save it, I'll just hit Control Save on this guy. And no thank you. And now I think we can just go ahead and populate our lists. So we can determine what we want to add and remove from the system. And maybe just add some documentation. And then after that, I'll open up a virtual machine. And we can give this a test spin. So yeah, I guess I'll do that now. Let's take one more quick look here. There's something I may have forgotten. Where is it? Right here. Right here. Instead of echoing out done, when we go to print out some documentation, I'm thinking maybe we can just say refer to documentation provided above. And yeah, that should be better because there's no point in just echoing out done there. And yeah, I think now we can, I'll just save this and go back over the terminal. And we can populate those lists, add some documentation, and then we'll be good to go. And I'll clear this out a bit. So I'll just cd into lists. And then I'll open up, I guess, apt.list. And then I have a list of applications here on a separate window. So I think I'm just going to copy and paste those in. And that should take care of that. So I'll just save this. And then cat that out quick. And yeah, that looks good. And then I'll just do the same with bloat list here. And then copy in all of the stuff I want to get rid of. And yeah, looks good. That's mostly just games that come pre-installed with the GNOME desktop that I want to get rid of. In theory, you could use the command apt remove gnome/games to do the same thing. But there's also a couple other packages I wouldn't mind removing from the system. So I just always find it nice to kind of keep an ongoing list of this kind of stuff. But I'll just save that. And then for documentation, I think maybe I'll just do that in the file manager. I just make it easier to copy everything over because there's going to be quite a few files that I'm going to want to copy over. So I'll just do that. Let's go over to my file manager. And right here is the USB that we've been working on. And here's the directories that we've created. For example, if I go into, say, a list here and open up this guy. Yep, that's the list that I just threw in there. So get rid of that. And go into our docs directory and add some documentation. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one folder, I think, here for system stuff. And another one for packages. Like that. And this would be all the documentation that I want for all the packages that I'm going to install, or just the ones that I need to keep notes for. So I'll just copy all that stuff and paste it in there. And then I'll do the same thing with system, which also has my bashrc stuff in here too. So maybe if I just open that up quick, this is all my bashrc stuff in here that I'm going to want to copy over. So I'll get rid of that. And then copy all these files and paste them in there. And I did see a couple things that I wanted to change in here. So this is going to be everything I'm going to be adding to the bashrc. And there's a few things I don't need in here, like all this stuff down here. Then get rid of that. All the prompt stuff at the top is good. I guess I don't need these variables in the new system, so I can get rid of those. And that stuff looks good. That looks good. Yeah, I think this is all right. So I'm just going to save this then. And then when that's done, I'll close this. And now that we have the USB populated and our script has been written, I think it's time to test this out in a virtual machine. So I'll just switch over to that. Actually, maybe I'll close these windows off first, and then jump over to the virtual machine here. And right here, I have a fresh install of Debian 12. So I think I'll just open that up and get that going. I'll make it full screen. And all I've done to this system after I installed it was the initial update and upgrade. And I don't even think I've set the screen resolution yet. But we'll find out here. I'll sign in. And I just updated this morning, so we should be up to date. I think all I'll have to do is maybe just set the screen resolution. And there's a couple other things too I like to ensure before doing an initial update or running a script like this. Is number one, we'll have to set the screen resolution. Number two, we'll have to make sure the automatic suspend and your screensaver has been turned off. And just to make sure that the system has been updated and upgraded. And then after you do that, reboot the system, and then you can come back and run the script. So I think what I'll do now is just get this screen resolution out of the way. And then go in displays and set the screen resolution to this guy right here. Yeah, it's a lot better. And then under power, just make sure you have screen blank here set to never. Or if you're not using GNOME, I'd just make sure your screensaver is turned off and make sure you have automatic suspend turned off too. So that way, if we're updating the system or installing packages, it's not going to go to sleep on us. And in theory, we could do this with xrandr to change the screen resolution, but it wouldn't be persistent. And some things are just nice to manually set yourself, such as the resolution I find in the initial update and upgrade. And then after that, I'll reboot the system and then come back and run a post-install script. But yeah, now with that done, maybe I'll just take a quick look around the system so we can see what it looks like now before we run the script. And then when we're done, and then when we're done, we can have another quick look around and just compare the before and after and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to think what I can check here first. Maybe I'll just open up the terminal. And first, make sure that we're updated. Make this font a bit bigger here. So I'll say sudo apt update. Failed to fetch security updates. Huh, that's strange. All right, kind of just installed the system and walked away from it and forgot about it. But let me try that again. That's weird. And I just figured out why. Sorry about that, but I totally don't have the... I have my internet connection disconnected from my whole system. So we're obviously not going to be able to update the virtual machine. So I'll just reconnect there, and then all should work well. Let's try that again. So let's do sudo apt update. Yeah, that looks a bit better. So we're all up to date. And now I'm just going to run ls-la so we can have a look at our home directory here. And so the first thing I'm not seeing is our bashrc.bak. So that hasn't been created yet. Because like I said, this is a fresh install. And same thing with profile. We don't have that backup yet either. And yeah, so we'll definitely check that after you run the script and make sure that those are created. And the next thing I think I'll do is maybe just jump in the applications menu and just look at, see what we got here. So we got chess and a whole bunch of other different games, nibbles and robots. So all that stuff we're going to want to get rid of. And so we, like with the, like with everything else, we can just check this out later and make sure that those are all gone after we run our script here. And next thing I want to check out is maybe our home directory. And that's just all the normal files right there. So if I actually, maybe I'll redirect my USB so I can get my backup and stuff going. And to do that, we can just say redirect USB device. And then I'll pick this guy for backup. And then this one right here is the USB that we're just working on and created the script on. So I'll select that too. And then close this. So now we can see them right here. I'll make this full screen again. So then if I open up another file manager here, new window, drag this down here, and go to backup and then home. These are the directories I'm going to be copying into my home directory right here. And as you can see, FOSSMan's not in there, modules isn't in there, websites, notes, none of that stuff is in here. And also too, I have a bunch of dot files. And show hidden files. So as you can see here, like .bash aliases, vimrc, Mozilla, and this will be for Firefox. So when we copy this file over to the new home directory, it should apply all the changes into Firefox as well. And just to confirm, Firefox is at its default. I'll just open it up. And this will be the first time it opens, so it may take a while. Here we go. Yeah, so as you can see, this is just plain old default Firefox. So we'll have to check that out after the script runs too, make sure that's changed. And then I have all my backgrounds here, app images and stuff like that. And none of that stuff is currently in the home directory for the system right now. And you see we have .mozilla right there. But as we just saw, it's just using the default settings. So when I copy over my .mozilla from my backup drive, it should overwrite this one. And then we'll try to open it up and see if the changes took effect. Right. So yeah, that's all the home directories. And then maybe now we can just check and make sure that some of the repository packages that we're about to install are not already on the system. And so I'll get rid of this stuff and then open up the terminal again. And make this a bit bigger. And so one of the packages I want to install, I guess the first one would be something like htop. So we can just say apt search htop. And there's htop right there. And as you can see, it's not installed. And maybe I'll do the same thing with Vim. And I don't really want to go through that big list. And so another one would be NetHogs. Oh. Yeah, and as you can see, that's not installed either. So after you run this command, after the scripts run, we should see those as installed. So I'll get rid of this. Oh, and actually one more other thing I want to check are the bashrc configurations. So then we can compare the bashrc file with the, and see how it looks after we run the script as to what it looks like right now. So if I just cut that out, you can see there's nothing being added to the end of it. So this is just the default bashrc right here. So everything we add to this file would be down here at the bottom after all this stuff. And I'll clear that. And now with all that out of the way, I think we can test our script. But before we do, this blinding white's kind of driving me a little bit nuts here. So I'm just going to change that really quick. And go to appearance. Choose dark. That's better. And I think I'm going to change the background to this guy right here. And then we'll close this. And then we'll exit it here. And to make the dark theme work on the terminal, we're going to have to also set it in tweaks. And go to appearance. And then legacy applications. We want to change this to auto-weighted dark. So now the terminal should also be changed. Now we're finally ready to run the script. Yeah, that's much better. So I'll make this bigger and make the font a bit bigger. And now we just have to cd into the post-install USB that we just created. And to do that, I'm just going to use the command lsblk so I can see where it's at. And there it is right there. So I'm just going to copy that and then cd into it. Paste. And enter. And now we're inside that directory. So now if I ls, there's the files or the directories that were created. And now we'll go into scripts. And there's our script. And then to run it, we can just add the ./ and the name of the script. And in case you're wondering, all the ./ does is indicate to the system that we want to run the script in this current directory. And I'm just trying to think of anything else that I could be forgetting before I hit enter. But nothing's coming to mind. So let's see what happens here. So welcome to post-install sh. That's a good sign we don't have an error. So I'm just going to copy this backup path right here and throw that in here and then hit enter. And there's our backup path. That's been echoed out back to us and that looks correct. So I'm just going to hit enter. Backing up system configuration files. And yeah, it'll definitely prompt you for your password here. So it says it's done. So I guess now maybe we can just open up the file manager and see if those were copied over. So that would be the bashrc and the profile and the .profile. And yeah, I was going to do it in the terminal, but maybe I can just do it here. Show hidden files. So now if we scroll down, yeah, there's the bashrc and the bashrc.bak. And we should see the same thing with profile. Yep, profile and profile.bak. So we know those files were successfully backed up. So I'll close this off and then hit enter to continue. Removing system bloat. So that's going to remove all those games. And then after this is done, we'll open up the applications menu and check and make sure those are gone. So far, so good. Okay, that's done. So let's open up the applications menu here and see what we got. And I don't see any games in there, or there, or there. So yeah, I think that successfully got rid of all of them for us. So definitely much better. And yeah, I don't see any of them there. So I think we're safe to continue. So let's hit enter. Adding home directories. And done. So let's check that out and see what happened there. Yep, there we go. There's Fossman, notes, modules, websites, and then added my bash aliases. And let's see what else we got here. Yeah, executables, clones, Mozilla. So maybe we can check out Mozilla now and see what if that changed. And there's my vimrc there too. Definitely nice to see my bash aliases in here. That way when I run the ls command, I have an alias in there to organize the ls output. So it'll be nice to see if that works. And yep, that looks good. So I think what I'll do is just open up Firefox now and see what it looks like. Yep, there we go. Definitely looks a lot different than what we saw earlier. As you can see, my extensions are installed. I got GNOME and uBlock Origin there. Everything looks different as to the way I normally customize it. So yeah, that was definitely a success. And even all my bookmarks are populated, which is saves a lot of time. And even though this is extremely convenient, I do kind of worry a bit about saving my browser file in case it ever does get corrupted or infected with something. You would just be copying it from system to system. So theoretically, it's probably a better idea just to always set up your browser from scratch each time you install a new system. But this certainly is convenient. That saves a lot of time just being able to copy that over. But yeah, everything looks good there. So let's continue. And these are all our apt packages. So when this is done, I think I'm just going to search for, say, NetHogs and just make sure that's installed. And same thing with Vim. And yeah, everything looks good there. We can continue, and I think we'll be just about done. Oh, we'll still have to install the .dev packages too. I think that's after this. Almost done. Not seeing any errors. And Python pip takes a little bit of time too. Okay, perfect. So I think what I'll do now is just open up another tab. I'll make this a bit bigger. And then all I want to do is, I guess, search for something like NetHogs. So I'll say apt search NetHogs. And there we go. We have it installed now. So I'll do the same thing with, I guess, Vim. I'll just scroll up a bit here. Yeah, and there's Vim right there installed. So yeah, I think all our repository packages installed successfully. So I'll just close this off. Make sure I'm closing off the right one here. And then hit enter to continue. Installing local packages. And there's our dependency issues right there. Let's see if it fixes them. And yep, looks like it wants to install the missing dependencies. So I'm just going to select yes, and then hit enter. It looks like it's installing them okay. So I think when this is done, I'll just open up File Manager and I'll show you what dev packages I have in the packages folder that I installed. And we'll check those out and see if those install successfully. Okay, that looks good. So now let's open the File Manager. And then inside of my home directory here, one of the files that I copied over from my backup was our directory was called .packages, which is right there. So these are the dev files that I just installed on the system. So cherry tree and pingus. So if we open up the applications menu, we should see those in here. There's cherry tree and there's pingus. So I think after the script's done running, we'll try to launch those and see what happens. And actually, I think I'll just do that now. I'll launch cherry tree maybe. Yep, and there it is in all its glory. If you guys have never used this application, it's absolutely wonderful for taking notes. It doesn't look too fancy right out of the box, but it's extremely customizable. You can make this application look pretty much however you want. And yeah, definitely a handy application to have kicking around. But no, all that looks good. So I think we can just hit enter and continue. And then configuring the bashrc, that didn't take long. So to check that out, we can just maybe open up another tab here. And as you can see, my prompt has changed. So I think that definitely took effect. And to have a look at the bashrc, we can maybe just say vim, because now we have that installed. And just say, go into the home directory here, bashrc. And then if I scroll down, yep, here's everything we added to the bashrc, starting from right here, all the way into here. So, yep, all that looks good. So I'll just get rid of this, clear that, and exit it here. And then I'll just enter to continue. So like I said, we can't really do this stuff in the terminal. So these are just specific instructions on certain applications where I have to make changes in the GUI application itself. So that's pretty much all I can think of to do for now. We could definitely get more specific with this though. And there are a few things in here we can do in the terminal. But I thought for now, we just prove all this stuff. And then in later videos, we'll work on just expanding this to also include these configurations. But yeah, I'm just going to hit enter to continue. And lastly, we're going to be cleaning stuff up. So it wants to get rid of 55 megabytes of stuff. So I'm just going to select yes and let it do that. And that's it. So I'm just going to hit enter to continue. System configuration complete. Hit enter to exit. Goodbye. And that's it. So I'm just happy to see that there were no errors. Everything seemed to install correctly. All our directories were transferred over. Our bashrc was modified. So right now, even if we just exit out of here and open up the terminal again, yeah, there's a new prompt right there. And now if I, maybe I'll make this a bit bigger. And because it also copied over my bash aliases, that aliases I have in there for ls, if I say ls-la, you can see all our directories and files are now in order. We got all our dot directories up here at the top, followed by the normal home directories, and then all our dot files down here at the bottom, which is exactly the way I wanted it. And I'll clear this and exit out here. And Yeah, as far as post-install scripts are concerned, I think that's a pretty good start. We got all the basics covered. And then in following videos, we can just add on to it. And of course, it kind of goes without saying, you should probably reboot your system after you do this, because we did do a whole bunch of stuff there. And I think, it could definitely use a reboot. But yeah, I'm thinking in further videos, we can just make it more interactive. This way, if small changes are need to be made, they can just be accommodated as the script runs. We can put all of these separate tasks in their own functions. That way we can call them in any order we want. Or say if we just want to simply just copy over all the files, we can just call the script and pass an argument to do that instead of having to do everything or parse out the bits that we want. The possibilities are endless. And I think this could make a really good series, as I'm starting to think this could be a really fun project. If you have any idea on what to add to the script, please just let me know in the comments. I'm not crazy about the idea of being in front of a camera, but a live stream with this type of thing, I think would be a great idea. Somehow make it like a community project. And I think by the end of it, we'd have something pretty awesome that we could use pretty much forever on our Linux systems. But all that will be for another day. And I hope you guys found this video useful, as it can be a daunting task to initially undertake and may take some time and effort to refine. But when you're done, you won't have to worry about breaking your install, when it can be so easily just brought back to its normal state just by running a script. And just as a reminder, the commands that we started with today should be in the comment section of this video. If you have any issues getting this stuff running, please just let me know, and I'll do my best to help you figure it out. But yeah, like I said earlier too, like all the commands we used today were really basic commands that are common to pretty much all GNU/Linux operating systems. And so I don't think there should be too many issues. But with all that being said, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate some of the comments I've been getting. As much as I try to stay away from social media, it's nice when a group of people can connect in such a way as this and learn from each other's mistakes and achievements. But yeah, I think that's it for this one. Thank you guys for watching. Bye for now.